Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Danny, and today I am finally getting a chance to cover the leaked TPUSA calls that Erika had shortly after September 10th. Just before we hop into those, I did pull up Candace's live streams because that's where I'm getting these videos from, but I did want to leave in a portion just before she gets into the video, so I'm going to pull that up first. And if you guys are enjoying the content, I would love it if you would subscribe and like this video. But let's go ahead and take a look at this here. First, I just had a few little things I wanted to say about it, and I'd love to hear all of your opinions in the comments. Go ahead and let me know what you think about all of this as well.
8 days after his public assassination, she sits down for a piece with the publication that hated Charlie the entire time he was alive. New York Times was constantly writing hate pieces about Charlie Kirk, or pieces that just were not kind or favorable to Charlie Kirk. So it's an interesting decision. And reading the article, or rereading, because somebody said you should actually go back and revisit everything that transpired in the day.
Which honestly is just, it's such a simple statement, but it's so real. Like, assuming that you had an amazing marriage and you loved your spouse so much, if you knew that there was a specific publication, given their situation is obviously not the same as like most of ours, but you know, fill it in with anything really. But if you knew that this particular person, group of people, whatever, had negative things to say about the spouse that you loved so dearly that is now not with us, why would you ever be like, yeah, let's go to them first? It's very weird. It's just weird. That's not what I was going to say.
After, and you kind of have new eyes, and that's very true. But in reading that article in retrospect, something that I am particularly struck by is the fact that she describes suddenly being forced into the single mother position as the quote unquote least traumatizing thing. Becoming a single mother suddenly, 8 days later, she describes it as the least traumatizing thing. Again, that's an exact quotation. I'll read it. You could see it. They're going into this. They're speaking about Trump's energy and his tone toward her on phone.
So obviously you can see it here, but it states that it says that new life, Miss Kirk said, is actually the least traumatizing thing for me. So being that she has a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son at home left to be cared for by just her. The reason that I wanted to talk about that briefly is just to put into perspective, like in general, right? If we talk about like the average person, let's say you have an abusive spouse. For the most part, a lot of the times people choose to try and stick it out or stay for the benefit of the kids. Like we hear that all the time, right? Like my parents stay together for the kids, or you know, sometimes you even hear of parents who separate after their kids are grown because they didn't want to traumatize the kids or whatever. And that's when you're discussing most likely an non-ideal home life, right? So the kids are already dealing with a non-ideal home life if you're at a point of considering leaving your spouse, right? So if you have an amazing marriage and an amazing family life, and this happens to your husband, I would think that it's safe to say that being a single mom and raising kids without their dad, especially given the circumstances that they are in, would be like, if not the top priority or concern, maybe number 2 to yourself. If you wanted to feel like I don't know about any of you, I tend to put myself in other people's shoes so much to the point where like that is the hardest thing for me when it comes to like emotions and trying to, you know, be logical about things. I tend to put myself in other people's shoes. So in this scenario, I don't, who else, by the way, after Charlie Kirk was, I don't even know, we'll call it the Big Bang, like Barron. After the Big Bang, How many other people had days, like I'm talking days, of thoughts creeping in about those poor kids and the conversations she would have to have with them and what their lives would be like now that they're going to grow up without their father. That was what made me choke up every freaking time. Every time was the thought of that. So this is a very weird statement to me. But yeah, outside of that, that's kind of like all I wanted to cover in that quick spot. I'm going to pull up now really quickly. She does briefly go over like a timeline following the event that I wanted to just take a look at briefly, because again, I think it also just puts things in perspective in the sense of, you know, Erika's whereabouts and kind of what was going on at that point.
I think a lot of this, when you hear this call that I'm about to play for you, I'm not trying to color your opinion, but I am going to give you mine because it's my podcast. I'm allowed to do it. I do want to remind you that Charlie has not been dead for 2 weeks. That's where you have to go back to. Not even 2 weeks after Charlie was publicly assassinated. Not a normal, he didn't, we had to watch this. We had to visually watch this. Now, the entirety of this call, which we're not going to play, is 15 minutes long. I'm going to figure out how to just drop it on my X feed. But I want to make sure that we properly and fairly contextualize it. So we're not being choosy. We're not cutting this for drama. The obvious point of this call to set this up is to introduce Erika. She's a new leader. Not even introducing, she's just heading up this call, but obviously she's going to be at the helm of this. So they're getting to know her. And she does begin the call by being thankful to the entire Turning Point USA team for their work at the memorial event. So let's take a listen.
All right. I guess I missed the point where she goes over the timeline. I had my timestamp written down wrong. Not a big deal. Essentially, it's just, it honestly was just multiple events after multiple events within like a very brief period of time following his death. And I don't know about you. Honestly, part of me feels like I had a harder time following his death than we saw her have. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we can't see, but like, I am generally not someone who gets very emotional over people that like I don't know, or celebrity deaths, things like this. This one really hurt me, really struck me. I think it just feels like his personality and his I guess his role and everything in general, he was borderline what some might consider like a celebrity in like the political sphere, I guess. But he also was like just a person like us, you know, like he started out as just someone who wanted to share his thoughts and hopefully, you know, open people's eyes to a different perspective. And I think that a lot of us want to do the same thing. And it felt very much so like a bridge between like the Hollywood celebrity side of the world and real life. And he was kind of somewhere in the middle. And I feel like that caused a lot of people to connect in a different way. And this really impacted me. This impacted me so much more than I thought. Granted, I saw the video up close and it was not something I went out looking for, but unfortunately saw anyway, and that in and of itself is going to have an impact on people. So it's understandable that we all had this kind of a reaction, but we also, again, are more so people looking from a different perspective. So when you think of it as, you know, someone who personally experienced this, someone who personally watched this with their own spouse, it's very odd to me. So, but let's go ahead and listen. This is the audio for the call that took place less than 2 weeks after. And there is another one that was prior to this that I will show after. It's a lot shorter, but we're going to watch this one first.
Hi, everybody. I still love all these emoji Zoom things. Wow. I don't even know where to begin. The fact that we were able to pull off an event of a century, like it's just insane.
I'm going to try to not pause a ton of times, but is that commentary not like kind of crazy anyway? just the choice of words, saying that we were able to pull off feels weird to me, sort of like I don't know, an subconscious weird choice of words. I don't know. Is it just me? Saying that we were able to pull it off feels weird. And then yeah, she's like immediately talking about basically how cool it is that they were able to pull off this huge event. I don't know.
We had over 275,000 people that.
Also, you can just hear the tone in her voice. It's definitely for sure what so many people are picking up on is like especially because you can't see her face, right? I feel like it's even more apparent. Like, have you ever heard of if you're someone who works in customer service, they might say, smile while you're talking because people can hear it. This is a great example of that. I feel like we can hear the massive smile on her face, and it's just very weird.
Attended, and stadium, overflow, Westgate, insane, you guys. And then you have, was it 100 million? You guys that heard the gospel and all about Charlie and all about everything that you guys do, and the hard work of Turning Point USA is insane. We had thousands that were registered to vote. I think
like alternative perspective, or just like a different thought, if you were to change the scenario and change the words being used, couldn't you see this being like I don't know, let's say someone talking about how much money they make on social media, right? Like that they had like this one particular video that like took off, and all of a sudden they had like a ton of money coming in. I feel like that's what this sounds like, right? Like if you were to be like, you didn't really want to say everything, but you were kind of like, talking with friends, like that video, we got like so many views. That's what it feels like to me. Like that sort of like, can you believe it? Like this is going to make so much money. Like that's what it literally just sounds like that to me. I'm sorry. I know I've already stopped it a few times, but I just feel like that's what it sounds like. Like looking to your friend, like, seriously, can you believe we did that? It doesn't fit the situation at all.
We're at like over 200,000 for merch sales. Don't quote me on that because I think it just keeps like bumping up like crazy. But I just wanted to say a huge, huge, huge thank you to the events team, the development team, the graphic design team, the production team. It's just phenomenal. Their incredible work leading into the memorial. And honestly, a lot of the staff that worked on the memorial, they had 20-hour days for a week during the time of us grieving the loss of my husband. And honestly, I know several staff that didn't even sleep. Again, you guys are breathing angels, and I'm so grateful for all of you. And obviously a huge thank you to the Mosaic team. VI, you guys are 10 out of 10. Like we have the most incredible team. We just do. And you guys know that, and you guys are all a part of that. And I am so, so thankful. And if you do have a moment and you run into any of those staff members that you know had a role in this, and that they put a lot of their time and effort into it, just say thank you. There's something really special to be seen in moments like this. And it's not easy. I'm speaking from experience. I'm right in the trenches with you guys. And so the fact that a simple thank you. I don't care if any of you have beef with each other from the past or have any issues with someone said something about this or that. Like, if you guys have any of that, please put it to rest. My husband's dead. Like,
I wanted to pause that there really briefly, because is that weird? I feel like that's the weirdest like thing to bring up in this statement. Like, if any of you have beef with one another, like I feel like that's indicative that there was something going on. And I feel like it's a very weird thing to say. It sounds very like like she's on this call to kind of congratulate them and thank them all for all of this hard work, but it feels almost as if she's reprimanding them at the same time. Is it just me? Anyway, I'm going to back it up a couple seconds because I still can't even deal with how she states what she just did there at the end.
From the past, or have any issues with someone said something about this or that. Like, if you guys have any of that, please put it to rest. My husband's dead. Like, I'm not trying to be morbid, but he's dead. And it puts life into perspective of how short.
Okay, so also this second here where she says that, right? So she says, if any of you guys have beef, just put it to rest. Like, my husband's dead. Okay. First of all, that statement's crazy, right? Like, that's a crazy thing to say it that way. I would think that, you know, if you wanted to say something in this moment, maybe like we lost someone important. I lost the most important person in my life. Like, that sounds normal, but the way she said it is it's very weird and disconnected. To be like, if you guys are arguing, it sounds like if you guys are arguing, I don't want to hear it. Like, my husband's dead, so you have nothing to say. Like, that's what that feels like, right? Like, as if she's trying to one up people who maybe had like beef previously. It's weird. It's weird. It's very weird. I don't like it.
Short life is, and relationships, and God puts people in your life for a reason, and it teaches you a lesson, it teaches them a lesson. So if you are going through a time where, just lay it to rest, and we are moving forward, Turning Point USA 2.0 with Charlie in our hearts, and that's what he would want.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the chat here, and you guys are responding live in the way that I.
Okay, so she goes on to say similar things about the weirdness of my husband's dead. That statement is very odd. I'm going to move forward to the next spot I have on here so we can just keep going.
Take a listen.
I'm just grateful that while things were still in motion and moving around, that we had our leadership teams provide for you counselors, pastors. I heard there were therapy dogs. Slightly jealous that I didn't get to have any moment with a therapy dog. Breakfast. I was really adamant about making sure that we paid for your flights for your spouses to be there. That was something on my heart.
I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like this feels as if she's thanking herself on behalf of the employees of TPUSA. Does that make sense? It feels off. It feels backwards. Like, she's saying, I'm really thankful that we provided for you guys. And it just feels weird and odd, which is like common for her, it seems. It just feels out of place. Like, I feel like this would be something that maybe the employees would say to her if they wanted to have like a meeting where they came together to try and like offer support to her. I feel like that's what they would say, you know, be thankful for like the things that they provided to them as employees. But the way she's wording it is as if she's saying it. Doesn't it almost feel like she's saying, it almost feels like a backwards insult. Like, nobody's really come out and said thank you, but I'd like to recognize what we did for you guys. Like, I don't know. That's what it feels like to me. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but
you don't want to grieve alone. No one's supposed to grieve alone. It's not healthy. But I just think it's a beautiful honor that all of these benefits were made for the community to grieve and remember Charlie. And I really hope you took advantage of those in a healthy way when they were provided, because it's meant to be for everyone, for healing. Grief comes in waves. You know, some days are going to be tougher than others, but, you know, take it as it comes. And that's why you have your Turning Point family, and just lean on them and lean on other people in your life that you know will help you and pour into you and pray with you to get you through it. I say that, though, that if you do need more time to grieve, please continue to use Turning Point USA's network of counselors. We have pastors. I mean, there are so many resources for you. If you do need additional time off, please talk to your director about using paid time off for that. And again, it's not easy, but again, grief is hard.
Okay, so I wanted to take a second in regards to this last little bit here, where she's talking about utilizing the paid time off. Firstly, I noticed the way she's speaking changes here. I feel like she knows what she's saying sounds very callous, sort of. You can hear lots of ums in here where there weren't previously. She certainly uses it often, but it felt like there was a lot more of that in this little bit here. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit because I did work in insurance for quite a long time, and I have somewhat familiarity, I suppose, with the process of being out of work for leaves of absence or for certain reasons. And most employers, like if you've ever worked in corporate America and you've ever had a situation where you needed time off because of the passing of a loved one, there's usually specific things that you're allotted for a given scenario. So if it's like a spouse or an immediate family member, like a child, you get a certain amount of time, typically a week, sometimes more. You also can utilize paid time off or like leave of absence, like FMLA. That's unpaid leave that allows you to keep your position at the job, and you can typically utilize that for a certain period of time before they ultimately have to say, if you don't come back, we need to let go of you. That's very common. That's very typical. And then if you have like a secondary family member, like a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, something like that, then you may get like 2 days or 3 days, something along those lines. I find it interesting, given the fact that the way this all sounds typical of a conversation you may have as an employer or someone managing like an insurance policy when it comes down to needing additional time or things of that nature, when you've utilized the bereavement time that's allotted per the policy, right? Like this sounds very typical of that, right? And initially it feels very much like, okay, well, yeah, if if they used any time during this window here from the 10th until current, and they're feeling like they still need some more time off, they probably would need to use paid time off. That would be pretty standard. And I can see how that would be a conversation to be had, but maybe in like a one-off. It feels very almost like an intimidation tactic in this scenario where she's talking to like a large group of people, sort of like if you still feel the need to take time off, you're going to have to use your own time, sort of a thing. And it's like a blanket statement to everyone. But I do question as well, given the fact that they just pulled off like this massive memorial service, bigger than anybody could have thought. And they've gotten so many new chapters and they've sold so many hats. Like they've done such an amazing job and they worked so hard, 20-hour days leading up to it. So when did they utilize any other time in the beginning? And maybe they're not allowed a bereavement because Charlie was not necessarily a direct relative or even a secondary relative to the employees there. But it is, the person that owned their company, that a smaller company, it was a large company, but it was smaller than, say, like a big corporate America type thing. But obviously the situation is different given the fact that this was her spouse. So it feels odd when you think of it in that manner, because now we're talking about a scenario where, if you're looking at it from the point of view as an employer, if maybe I needed time off because my spouse passed away or my grandmother passed away or something of that nature, it would feel like this kind of a conversation with your upper management because they have to enforce their policies. And I get that. But when you're talking about it from the sense that this was her spouse, it changes that dynamic a lot because it feels very much so normal if the person doesn't have an emotional connection to the situation. Like if I have a boss who's enforcing our policies, they might try and be gentle with me because they understand that I'm an upset person, but ultimately they don't really get it because it's not someone they knew, it's not someone they were connected to. They don't have that emotional connection. So maybe they're good at being empathetic, if they're a good manager, but ultimately it's not a connection that's important to them. And this still feels like that same conversation, but she's talking about her husband, which is the part that is so weird. I don't know. That's the part to me that just feels very odd. Let's finish this here. I think it's almost done.
Otherwise, honestly, Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action, full steam ahead, you guys. We have, Charlie would want us to get back to work, and that's what we're doing. And that's what we did with the memorial.
Yeah, I feel like, and Candace says here that she was laughing there, and it did feel like she was laughing, but it's not even necessarily to me about the laugh. It's about the whole idea of, it feels performative in the sense that like she's talking about something like a new adventure. You know what I mean? Like that's what it feels like. It feels like a sort of like, I understand some of you feel that way. Some of you might need more time off. But yeah, we're moving on and we are looking forward to what's coming next. And we're excited and it's weird. It's very weird. I watched American Discourse News. She had done a clip as well, and she talks about how she used to work in, it sounds like, corporate America as well, and that she would have approached this in the sense that I think most typical people would, where at this point they're approaching like the third quarter, the fourth quarter of the year. The year's winding down. Holidays are going to be coming into play. Other things that maybe were being worked on are kind of being either rerouted or, there's a lot of movement happening with like where the company was before September 10th and where they are now, that there's probably a lot of people. You would think, if any of you have worked for any large company, you would know that if there is any large disruption, whether it's a merger or any type of thing, it's very chaotic and messy for a while, usually, honestly, even if it's something that was planned, right? So like if you're talking about like a planned merger or something of that nature, there's always hiccups. You're dealing with lots of people, lots of moving parts, things that you anticipate to go one way, but something happens and they don't quite go as you think. And because of that, you would think, given that this was a scenario that was unanticipated, that there would be a lot of things that need to be kind of ironed out and like figured out in the months to come before it feels like everything's kind of under control. Like that would be the assumption. And when she was talking about how she would have presented this situation, it was along the lines of, look, we're approaching like the fourth quarter of the year, holidays, lots of things going on in our personal lives, as well as what's just taken place. Let's just get through the end of the year. And at that point, hopefully we will have a really great idea as to the direction we're going in, etc. Like that to me would have felt like a very normal conversation. Like I said, given the fact that this was not an anticipated event, I would imagine that would be a much more logical approach to just everything in general. But that's not what they're doing. They're going full steam ahead, and it's weird.
And I'm so honored and proud of each and every one of you, because that's what we're going to do in his honor and in his name. We have so much to do, which is exciting. Charlie in heaven is like, you guys thought you had a busy schedule then, just you wait. And he's doing some awesome things with Jesus in heaven right now. But there's so much work to be done. I mean, since his assassination, we have 100,000 chapter requests.
Just to point it out, you can hear when she just said, since his assassination. If I'm talking about my husband who was assassinated and I'm on the call and I say, since his assassination. You might try to soften it. You know, that's an aggressive word. You might try to soften it like that. But you can hear, she says, since his assassination, there's a smile. She's smiling when she says it. I don't know how you could smile after saying that word when you know it's applicable to the love of your life. I don't know how you could do that. Is that just me? Am I crazy?
We have 300,000 new donors.
Wow, so many new donors.
That
guys.
is a blessing in itself. Again, not normal. All God. I think we have 50,000 plus hat orders to fulfill. I mean, I'm saying
which we all know how that's going, right?
These numbers because it puts into perspective that we're not just sitting and thinking and looking at the wall being like, what do we do? Like that.
It's almost like they already knew what they wanted to do.
There is so much to do. You have over 20,000 AmFest registrations.
There's a lot happening there, and none of it is what I would be expecting to happen there. So basically what the employees said to me was that they got onto this call and everyone's exhausted, everyone's been working, they pull off this massive memorial. And then there's kind of this approach where it's like, well, if you guys need paid time off, like Charlie's in heaven dancing, wanting you to work harder. He's just up there like, you better work, but you can use the paid time off that you have earned, by the way, if you need to grieve more. But imagine you're the employee and you're like, okay, well, this is his wife saying this. So am I weird? Would I be like, I would be pretty weird if I needed to take time off and his wife is saying she's full steam.
That's a great point too. And I think pretty much that's it on this video that I was going to share. But I think that's a great point because it did feel aggressive, like I had already said. But also, wouldn't you feel the same way? Like if she's saying, if you need time off, like I don't need time off, I'll be here working my butt off. But if you do, you'll have to use time because we're all working. Very weird. It does feel like an intimidation factor. That'll do it for today. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you all again very soon. Have a great one. Bye.